Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. A Russian soldier on trial for war crimes in Ukraine has pleaded guilty to killing an unarmed civilian. Vadim Shashimarin is accused of shooting an unarmed 62-year-old civilian in the days after the invasion began and faces life in prison. Prosecutors say more trials could be forthcoming after identifying thousands of potential crimes committed by Russian forces. Moscow continues to deny its troops have targeted civilians. Russia says that almost 1,000 Ukrainian fighters, including 80 wounded, have surrendered from the Azovstal steelworks in Mariupol since Monday. The Defense Ministry say a total of 959 fighters have now surrendered, including 694 in the past 24 hours alone. It's thought top-ranking Ukrainian commanders at the steelworks are still inside the plant and have yet to surrender. Meanwhile, areas where the Russian army have retreated are being combed by Ukrainian forces for unexploded devices. Controlled explosions, like here northwest of Kyiv, are common, with fields still littered with unexploded ordnance from heavy shelling in March. Shells, missiles and mines are buried deep into the soil before they are destroyed in a controlled explosion. The job is dangerous but crucial as farmers cannot get back to work the land before their fields are cleared. Sweden and Finland have formally submitted their applications to join NATO.
The applications you have made today are an historic step.
The alliance's Secretary-General, Jens Stoltenberg, flanked by the ambassadors of NATO to the two countries, said it was a historic moment which we must seize, adding that the Nordic countries' membership would increase shared security. The two nations signalled their intention to apply for membership of the Defence Alliance in the wake of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. According to US media reports, flight data indicates a China Eastern Airlines plane that crashed in March was intentionally put into a nosedive. Investigators have so far not found any mechanical or technical faults with the jet, the reports say, citing a preliminary assessment by US officials. The Boeing 737-800 was flying between the southern Chinese cities of Kunming and Guangzhou when it crashed. All 132 passengers and crew on board the plane died in the crash. A man has pleaded guilty to stabbing 5 people to death and attempting to murder 11 with a bow and arrow in Norway in October last year. The rampage through Kongsberg, 70 kilometers west of the capital Oslo, lasted more than half an hour as the attacker randomly targeted people in their homes and on the streets. Prosecutors say Espen Andersen Brathen suffered from mental illness at the time of the attacks and should be sentenced to psychiatric care. More than 500,000 people have fled their homes in India's northeastern state of Assam to escape heavy floods triggered by pre-monsoon rains. Authorities say at least 7 people have drowned and warn the situation could get worse. Locals in the district of Hojai were seen evacuating with their belongings as many residents said floodwaters had destroyed homes and crops. One of the world's largest rivers, the Brahmaputra, which flows into India and neighbouring Bangladesh from Tibet, burst its banks in Assam over the last 3 days, inundating more than 1,500 villages. Australia's Prime Minister Scott Morrison has had an embarrassing slip while campaigning for the upcoming federal election, accidentally tackling a child to the ground in a football match. Morrison accidentally collided with Luca Favette from the Devonport Strikers, landing on top of him. The boy, who was unharmed, accepted an apologetic high five from the Prime Minister. The election takes place on May the 21st, and opinion polls show Morrison's Conservative coalition trailing the Labour opposition, though the margin has narrowed this week. And Brazilian graffiti artists have spray-painted 11 freedom-themed illustrations at the Three Powers Plaza in Brasilia to celebrate the nation's 200th anniversary of independence. The effort is part of the Supreme Court's programme to combat misinformation and hate speech. The artists were selected by the founder of the Carioca Graffiti School and the Graffiti Museum in Rio de Janeiro, Rafael Araujo dos Santos Barbosa. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.